to assume that the technology is working the way that it should. We appreciate everyone. Traditionally, whenever we release the quarterly crime stats, we do it 4 times a year, obviously. And traditionally, what we would do is we would take it out to the communities, engage with the community, and hold the briefing there. Needless to say, under the circumstances, the unprecedented circumstances that we are in the middle of right now, that's just not an option. But we have to find creative ways to still communicate to our community, especially when it comes to public safety. So it would be tone deaf if we didn't get out here and communicate directly to the people that we're served with protecting, to let them know how the organization, how the community is tracking in terms of public safety. You know, you hear a lot of data, a lot of percentages, but people are impacted by crime, and that's what we want to discuss this morning. In just a couple of moments, Deputy Chief Voorhees is going to go through the first quarter of 2020 when it comes to the crime data, a lot of the work associated with that crime, and what the men and the women are doing here with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department to keep our community a safe community. When he's through, he's going to do things a little bit differently this go around. We still have an opportunity to have reporters ask questions. The only difference that you're going to see this go around than what you would traditionally see is we're going to take those calls via teleconference. So forgive us in advance. Give us a little grace. There could be a little bit of a wonky, herky-jerky kind of feel to this when we navigate through the technology, but we want to at least have the opportunity for the media to ask their questions, get those questions to Chief Voorhees with regard to the crime data. When he's through, we're going to bring in Deputy Chief Estes. Deputy Chief Estes has been really the person who has been on the operational end of the COVID-19 enforcement and operations for the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department. He's going to give an update on what those operations and enforcement efforts look like. He, too, will answer questions on the back end, again virtually through teleconference with the media. I want to get started now by introducing Deputy Chief Kurt Voorhees.
Thank you, Rob. Overall, for the first quarter of 2020, we were flat with a 1% decrease in property crime and a 4.7% increase in violent crime. We had 27 homicides this year in the first quarter compared to 28 in the first quarter of last year. Thus far, we've had 30 homicides year to date. We had 493 robberies in the first quarter compared to 447 the same time last year. That's an increase of 10.3%. We've received more than 92,000 calls for service through the first quarter from the community, and that reflects a 2% decrease compared to the first quarter of 2019. We've seized 560 illegal guns, more than 40 more than this time last year. Our officers are continuing to do great work. 4,500 arrests so far this year. That's up 200 arrests over last year, and we're focusing on the right people and really trying to hold them accountable.
Can you stop real quick?
Sure.
Can you look at that phone and make sure it's not muted?
Just muted. Unmuted?
Yes, muted.
Okay. From the beginning, or?
You can start where you left off.
Okay. Happy to report officer-involved shootings are down. We had 2 this time last year. We have had 0 this year. Happy to report that. We've had 81 officer commendations this year versus 26 complaints against officers. The overwhelming majority of those complaints are from other CMPD employees and officers, and that continues to be a good sign that we hold ourselves to a high standard and accountable. Officers have conducted 17,000 zone checks so far this year for the first quarter. Our priority 1 response times are 6.6 minutes on average. That beats our goal of 7 minutes. And all that despite officer shortages. But I'm happy to report there that we have seen some encouraging trends in our recruiting. This year we've had a 32% increase in hiring compared to this time last year. So we're going to give you the crime stats virtually or in a handout later, but I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Chief,
I put
I'll
this
ask
on
you a question.
speaker?
You know, domestic violence has been an issue on the latter part of the first quarter. Can you talk a little bit about what we're seeing in the way of domestic violence, and can we attribute that uptick in these orders, stay-at-home order or mass gathering order? Is that something you could talk a little bit about? You may want to repeat my question back.
Certainly. So the question revolves around domestic violence, and if there's an increase in Charlotte versus last year, and there has been an increase in domestic violence cases. That may be due to the proclamation, more people spending time together. We've certainly seen reports of that in other jurisdictions throughout the country. Our calls for service in March, for example, are up 18% for domestic violence. Again, we are here for you. We're going to continue to work hard serving the community. I think all of our services are still available with CMPD. We're a resilient bunch. We're doing a good job responding to everything that we get. But if you're in a situation that you need more resources, go to cmpd.org, or you can call the Safe Alliance hotline at 704-332-2513.
Chief, there's been some talk around the country about more victimization of members of the Asian community in light of this virus, and some of that's bubbled up from across the country. What are we seeing here on the ground in Charlotte? Is that an issue that's really materialized?
Sure. So the question is revolving around any increase of Asian victimization at all, and during this crisis, and we have seen no increase where we were this time last year in that category.
Chief, I know another big issue has been shooting into occupied homes. It's been an issue for years, but it's really manifested over the last several weeks where we've seen a tremendous uptick. Can you talk about what we've seen, what we're doing about it, and more importantly, what the community can help us do about it?
Sure. That's an issue we take very seriously. The question is revolving around shooting at occupied dwellings and occupied property. We have seen a large increase in that, specifically in March. 14% increase for the year, 80% increase in the month of March. And with people staying home more, you're talking about folks being inside, there's just a higher risk of injury in those cases. It seems to be still over very minor disagreements, disputes, largely driven by feuds that are really pointless. When we can solve them and get to the bottom of it, it's always over really minor things. But we've done a lot of good work in that area. I've given patrol resources to investigations. We're working collaboratively with our partners. We've gone to other departments looking at things that we can do as a strategy. Our shooting to occupied dwelling task force continues to do fantastic work. Just this year alone, they've made 46 arrests, seized 33 guns, 9 of which were stolen. And again, I mentioned our gun seizures are up 7.5%. Our officers are coming into contact with people with illegal firearms consistently, and we're doing a good job seizing those, I'm proud to say, and we're going to continue. But we've got to have assistance from our community partners. I encourage anybody who has information to call Crime Stoppers or 911 if you have information, and speak up, because honestly, we're not everywhere at all times. People know things that sometimes they don't share, and we need that information to help keep the community safe.
Chief, with the schools closed temporarily, you have obviously a lot more children at home. We've already seen a situation involving a child who's got a hold of a firearm that wasn't safeguarded. Is there anything you can communicate to the community about how critical it is to keep an eye on and keep those weapons locked up?
It is critical. If you're a responsible firearms owner, that means you secure your weapons at all times. You know where they are. If you carry one, it should be attached to your body. If you're out in public, you should have a concealed carry permit and follow all those rules that are part of that. But we continue to see folks leave guns in cars. People break into cars. That's one of the most frequent ways in which some of these criminals get guns. We had 134 stolen from cars in the first quarter, 37 stolen from burglary. So if you have a gun in the home, make sure that it is secured, especially from your own family members. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to introduce Deputy Chief Jeff Estes, who's done, he and other folks at CMPD have done a tremendous job working with this COVID crisis, and our response to that, and making sure our people's wellness is paramount while we balance the needs of our employees in the community and our crime-fighting mission. So at this point, Jeff Estes, Deputy Chief, Support Services.
Thank you, Chief Voorhees. In addition to crime fighting, and you heard some of the great work that's being done by the men and women at CMPD, we also are charged with the enforcement and education surrounding the COVID-19 crisis and pandemic, one that we take very seriously. We continue to receive questions and complaints through the 311 system, also our online reporting system. We vet those out, those that require an in-person response, we're responding. Many of those we were able to sort out and vet through and respond back via email. I want to say very quickly, I'm very proud of the citizens of Charlotte Mecklenburg. Many of you are abiding by the guidelines. We're very proud of that. Now, those that aren't, some aren't just because they're not exactly sure, and we're vetting those out when they call or email or ask that. And some aren't just because they don't think that it pertains to them. They're not taking it seriously, and that they believe that they aren't required to abide by the rules. For those people, our message is it's time to stop making excuses. It's time to start staying at home. I hear many people say, well, I'm asymptomatic. I don't have it. I shouldn't have to stay home. Well, we know that people who are asymptomatic can be, in fact, carriers and spread that around to people who then are susceptible to the virus and honestly prolong the amount of restrictions that we have placed on us. As I said before, we have to pause our society to protect our society, and that's what we're trying to do now. The sooner that we abide by this rules, the quicker that we'll return to normal life. As I said, large segments of the population are abiding by the guidelines. This past weekend, we had a protest that went outside the guidelines of only 10 and not abiding by the mass gathering rules. We had to cite 12 of those folks, and an additional 8 of those folks continued to not adhere to the proclamation, and they were arrested. We also had a local businesses, a massage parlor that continued to operate after being asked not to. I want to make it clear, if any citizen, business, or anyone else is asked by an officer, told by an officer to comply, and they don't, they'll be cited. If they continue not to comply, then they'll be arrested. We don't have a choice. This is a pandemic. It's time to take it serious. On another note, we have gates that'll be closing at about 60 or so of the largest county parks. That's in an effort to try to ensure that the social distancing and, more importantly, mass gathering proclamation parts are adhered to there. So be wary of that if you're planning on traveling to a county park. Just know that, again, the gates will be closed for the largest ones, and you may want to just stay home, walk outside, or do something else other than gathering up in a mass group. And lastly, I'd like to say I'm from here. I know the citizens of Charlotte Mecklenburg, and I'm proud of what we've done so far, by and large. I've already addressed those of you that aren't. For those that have, again, I have seen amazing things from the citizens here, from the businesses and churches that are really stepping up and doing the things that they need to do during this time. For a crisis like this, the sooner that we all abide by the guidelines, the sooner that we all take it serious and stay home when necessary, the quicker that we will be back to normal society. The more we do today, the better our tomorrow will look. Thank you. So I'll entertain any questions related to the COVID-19 response at this time.
Brandon? Any questions?
Well, we're waiting for that, Chief. I saw some come over via email, the inbox. How difficult is it to have officers trying to maintain public safety and manage public health to a large extent right now? That's a delicate balancing act for some.
Sure, and unfortunately, our crime fighting efforts are ongoing. Our day-to-day operations of ensuring public safety. The men and women who don't have a choice to stay at home or not have to be here at work, put themselves at risk, not just police officers, but of course our firefighters and our medic personnel. They're out and about on the streets ensuring that the public safety is kept. At the same time, we also have to pivot and then educate and enforce the COVID-19 response, which is no small feat. So far, we're doing our best to balance both of those. We've had, as I said, good responses, and now we're really trying to make sure that people do what they're supposed to do as best we can, having to manage both.
I have Jonathan Lowe. Jonathan Lowe.
Morning, Jonathan.
Hey there, Deputy Chief. Good to hear you. Good to see you guys. I just wanted to ask really quickly, since your officers are having to go out and do all this education and make sure people are following the order, at the same time, how are they as far as their own protection? Do you all feel they have enough protective equipment, masks, gloves? What's the protocols there, taking temperatures, since they are having to do so much, person-to-person enforcement still with people still not following the rules?
All right, thank you for the question. The question was revolving around officers' safety in the field, around personal protective equipment, also taking temperatures, et cetera. So a couple of points there. First is that we follow the guidelines from the public health professionals in regards to operating in the field. Every single officer has personal protective equipment that they're provided before they go onto the shift, and they use that in the performance of their duties, and of course is replenished before they go back out. We take every employee's temperatures at the beginning of the shift to ensure they're not running a fever, and if they are, we're sending them home. At every juncture that we have a possible exposure, we're following the guidelines, reporting that to public health people, and we're strictly abiding by their guidance as to our employees and their safety.
Mark Becker.
Morning, Mark.
Hey, good morning, Chief. Real quickly, last week we heard 2 officers tested positive, 14 others in quarantine. What is the lay of the land right now? Have those numbers changed? And, what, if anything, are we doing beyond that?
Yeah, so far we have 2 sworn officers, 1 civilian person who's tested positive. They're in the protocols. We've had, we count those total out in precautionary quarantine. Again, we take a very conservative viewpoint about that. If a person is not feeling well, symptomatic or whatever, whether we know or not, we send them home. And so those numbers have changed. We have, I think, 30-something people we've also placed out who have then been asymptomatic and then come back. So far, so good on the 2 officers that are positive, and also our civilian family member here who is positive. They're in the protocols, and again, with the public health officials' direction, they'll be reintroduced back into the workforce.
Katie.
Morning, Katie.
Numbers have changed, but I'm actually still not sure I understand what you were saying. Did you say 30-something are affected? I didn't hear the last part.
No, I'm sorry. What I was saying is we had, I want to say it's 36, I believe, people who we have had out for precautionary measures, not tested positive, but weren't feeling well, and we wanted to, or I had a potential exposure that we put out sick, and now they're back to work.
Got it. And the 2 officers who tested positive, that number has not increased?
No, 2 officers, 1 non-sworn family member here at CMPD.
Okay, got it.
Chief, thought's been made of the mass gathering. You've mentioned how the overwhelming majority, the vast majority of people, when we get reports of violations that we go out and investigate, are cooperating. What does that tell you about the community?
I think the community's stepping up by and large. And like I said, we see the outliers on social media, et cetera, where, it's incumbent upon everyone to take this mantle of social distancing, abiding by the mask gathering themselves. It's very difficult for CMPD to be everywhere, of course. Not to say that we don't try, but if our citizens, each and every one, take it seriously, then it makes our job a lot easier. So I am proud of the vast majority of the city. You can drive around and see traffic's a lot lighter. You see folks that are staying at home. For those people, I'm very proud of them. As I said, I'm from here, and I know what the citizens can do, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results of this stay-at-home order on the lowering of the number and of the apex here very shortly.
No less proud. Been with the organization for 20 years. No less proud, I'd imagine, of the men and women of this organization who are asked to do some challenging things in their responsibilities now.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, almost 30 years I've been here, Rob, and I can tell you, when this whole pandemic thing started, we had no questions about do I come to work or not? No questions about what my role was, just how can I help? Stepping up, doing their jobs day to day. They're still out interdicting the violent offenders who are out victimizing people. You know, that line between folks who are law-abiding citizens and those who aren't, we're still standing strong today.
Katie?
Morning, Katie.
Jonathan Lowe?
Jonathan, good morning.
Hello?
Go ahead, Katie. I'll wait.
Sorry about that. I think my question's quick, and I apologize if you've said this before, but can you share how many citations you have issued from various calls about violations of the stay-at-home order?
Yeah, 13 total citations and 8 arrests all the way around, and a ton of people who we have talked to who have abided by just after being spoken to.
Got it.
All right, Jonathan?
Yes, so Chief, I wanted to go back to the from this past weekend, the issue with out on Latrobe Drive. In that video, the conversation between some of the people out there, the protesters, and I believe it was Officer Korn. The guy specifically said, you cannot do this. This is not constitutionally correct. What did you all envision he was saying? And are there any legal challenges that you all perceive from a freedom of speech standpoint? I guess that's what he was alluding to.
Yeah, well, just to say, I haven't seen or heard the video, so I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to speak on specifics of what was said in the video or not. Here's what I can tell you. We believe and, in fact, are sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States. When you become an officer, you raise your hand and say that that's what you'll do. At the same time, during this pandemic time, as I said earlier, we have to pause our freedoms in order to protect them. So we have had clear direction that a person's right to free speech is only abridged in gatherings of more than 10. So when we see that a person is not abiding by the proclamation of mass gathering, by the way, to keep us all safe, then we must intervene. Then we ask people to comply. When they don't, we issue citations. When they further don't, we're forced to make arrests, and we'll do so. So again, a person's First Amendment right, of course, during this time are abridged. However, they're not fully cut off as long as you do that in groups less than 10 and practice social distancing. That's our stance. Whether or not it's legally challenged, as I said, I've been here almost 30 years. I've seen almost everything challenged legally.
Hunter?
Hunter? Good morning, Hunter.
Hi there. Good morning, Deputy Chief. Thanks for taking the time for us. I just had a quick follow-up. I know about 2 nights ago at the City Council meeting, you and Chief Putney were there talking to council members, and one of them asked about specifically the hazard pay, and the chief had said that nothing was needed right now from the department at this time. Where does the department stand on hazard pay at the request of several officers?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I don't remember hearing a comment saying this regarding hazard pay that nothing was needed at this time. What I can say about it is the same thing I said then. Those decisions are being made at by people above me, smarter than me, that make those kind of decisions. Hazard pay is something that has been, bannered back and forth. Of course, you'll never hear me say, anything other than, officers do a tremendous amount of work already. Of course, I'm for more pay. Everybody's for more pay. But during this time, specifically about hazardous pay, the point I want to make, whether we get hazardous pay or not, I want to emphasize the officers that are out there regardless, and public safety folks and first responders who are putting their life on the line, hazardous pay or not. Again, those decisions are made, above where I sit. Brandon?
Good morning. Thanks for talking with us. I just want to kind of piggyback off of an earlier question Jonathan had about safety protocol with your officers. I just want to see if you can go maybe a little bit more into detail. I'm asking because our cameras caught over the weekend. We were on scene and senior officers essentially disaffecting each other and things like that. So I didn't know, is that the norm now? Is that what you guys are recommending to the officer? I guess can you go into a little bit more detail what maybe new protocol is when they coming and going after coming from a crime scene or anything like that?
I think I've been pretty specific about what the protocols were, is that, if there's a COVID person suspected or otherwise, that they don their PPE. If your camera's caught, as you said, officers disinfecting each other, I think that's a great message to send, that we are looking after each other, ensuring that we're abiding by what protocols we can and being safe. We have told our folks, like we're telling members of the citizenry, wash your hands, keep social distancing, ensure that the surfaces, that your work surfaces are clean, and if you are out and about in a situation that we're forced to be in a lot of times, dealing with people where we don't know, if they're COVID or not, we're being extra cautious, and again, hand sanitizer, washing our hands, and those sorts of things. So I think it's a great thing that you saw officers who are, disinfecting each other and taking care of themselves. Katie?
Yes, are you able to share how many total calls you've gotten from the community as they relate to regulations to stay at home?
Well, it's difficult. I could say, there's probably 1,500 or more contacts, emails, whatever that have come through, but that wouldn't be a good solid number, because we get a lot of questions and calls that we're able just to answer and go through. So I think you're asking me how many times we've been out to a place, and again, those numbers are fluid. So, I can point to, we've had 1,500 different folks asking questions, but again, I think that's on the low end. And we visited many businesses, visited citizens, and otherwise. And again, I don't have a specific number for that. Brandon?
I apologize. I didn't know my hand thing was still up. I don't have another question.
Thank you. Hunter?
A quick question. Yesterday we talked to Medic, and they said that they were prepared just in case some 40% of their first responders were to be directly or indirectly impacted by COVID. I'm wondering if there is a percentage that the police department is prepared for and has adequate backup for.
Well, let me just say, contingency plans are our business. We're always in the planning phases of what an eventuality might be. So we don't tie to a specific numbers. We have different staffing models and allocations based on if we have people who have to be out for one reason or another. We have contingency plans all the way out to if the pandemic were to, severely affect the organization. So yes, we have plans in place. No, I won't discuss numbers with you and what that looks like. I will say, with talented folks like Chief Voorhees here, who has responsibility for all patrol officers here, the citizens are safe, and we have plans to ensure that they'll be safe, even if the workforce is affected. Katie?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the year, and I guess probably until recently, I'm not sure what the recent numbers are on hiring. You guys had some pretty significant officer shortages, and now being tasked with this pretty large assignment of enforcing the stay-at-home order. Are you finding that officers are stretched even thinner? On top of that, of course, there are some people who are out because they're sick. I mean, what sort of strain would you suggest this having on, on your employees?
Yeah, I think there's two different things, two different questions. So the first end is that, yes, we had some officer positions that we want to fill. We're making some headway. I think Chief Boise outlined that we're up this quarter versus last quarter. We've got CharlottePoliceJobs.org is up and running, so we're still getting people apply, and we encourage for people to apply to come join us on the front lines of this. As far as the officers, we have some tremendously talented, hardworking, and resilient officers who somehow find a way to manage and get it done with the workload that they already have and keep the community safe. And then also, while they're going about that, we're going about the COVID-19 response. So our officers, I'm very proud of them. They're very hardworking people. Our citizens should be proud of them as they go out and do their job. So first part of the question, we are cautiously optimistic about our increase in numbers. And on the second half, I'm overly proud of what our work ethic and what our officers are doing right now.
So, Chief, anything you wanted to say before we close it out?
No, just want to reemphasize to all those people who are abiding by, and I know it's uncomfortable, I know it's a strain on the way of life. I hear about parents with their kids at home every day trying to find things to do, and workers who are out of work, who are frustrated. We understand that. We're with you. I want to commend those folks who are doing the right things. To those of you that aren't, now's the time. Again, pause our way of life to protect our way of life. Thank you.
And we appreciate everyone's grace and apologize for some of the technical issues we have had through the onset of this morning. Appreciate everyone sticking around. We know we've got a captive audience at home. Please continue to follow the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department on all of our social platforms for up-to-date information, how it relates to COVID-19, our enforcement efforts and response. And we will get those numbers that Chief Voorhees outlined earlier up on those social channels in the not-too-distant future. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned.